Is it time to get the hell out of Dodge? This video is going to ask that and an even more important question. If we, as a society, constantly and systematically punish success and reward failure, what do you think we will get more of in the future? Celebrities are fleeing California right now, and it's not just celebrities. It's any high net worth individuals and business owners, which means loss of jobs. Everything you need to know about, I'm going to change this too, because I don't believe in the red state, blue state stuff, but California and New York compared to more hospitable, less extractive places. In the middle of that article, there's this great chart. Who spent responsibly, comparing the four largest states. And this chart covers the range from 2000 to 2019. So California and New York increased their per capita, so that's per person, state government spending by around 50% since 2000. By contrast, Texas's increase during that time was modest, and Florida had a significant decrease. And so here you have California spending 52% more per person. This is where I was from, California. New York at 49%, Texas at 5% increase, and Florida at minus 16%. Well, guess what? These places have good schools, good roads. They've got the things that California and New York have, except they don't have income tax. And so the places that the people that are fleeing California, the businesses and the celebrities and the high net worth individuals, the people that are leaving here, are going to these places. Is it time to get the hell out of Dodge? Uber warns of a 111% price hike after California judge rules drivers are employees. This is the government getting involved in every aspect of our lives. The ruling means that the companies will be required to provide various benefits to drivers, including overtime pay. Remember that one because we're going to come back to it, and health insurance. The lawsuit filed in May by the Attorney General and the cities of San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Francisco argued that the companies have been illegally classifying their drivers as independent contractors under the state's relatively new, so illegally under this new bill that was introduced in it went into effect January 1st. And Uber and Lyft argued that their drivers can be considered contractors under the ABC test because they are technology companies that connect riders to drivers. And this is absolutely true. They don't hire anybody. What they do is they vet drivers to protect you and to make sure that all of the drivers pay their taxes and play by the rules. So they're making sure that their cars have insurance, that the drivers have a good driving record, and they aren't criminals that could assault you. So these are not transportation companies hiring drivers to perform rides. They are companies that just match up two people that want to make a transaction. And whenever Uber and Lyft go into a city or a state, the amount of drunken driving arrests, drunken driving accidents, and drunken driving fatalities drops. The old data, I'm not sure what it is today, but the old data early on in Uber's history was that when they'd go into a town, drunken driving accidents and deaths would go down by about a third right away. And so that's thousands of people that are alive today because of Uber and Lyft. But they have done more to reduce drunken driving than all of the police DUI checkpoints nationwide have done in the past 30 years. So this is the market, and people being able to choose not to drive drunk because they don't have to wait an hour for a cab or something like that. It's very convenient and very cheap and not worth the risk. So people are choosing not to drive drunk instead of the government threatening you with fines and arrest and everything else and doing these checkpoints. And the cost, the checkpoints come out of your taxes, by the way. Uber is a voluntary transaction. This is a mandated, forced transaction. And now, when we come to the overtime pay, what does that incentivize? This is part of economics, and I'm going to get, right after this, I'm going to show you some of Frederick Bastiat's writings. And one of the things, he did a whole series on that which is seen and that which is not seen. And in economics, it's quite important to try to foresee the consequences of any of your actions. How does California overtime work? You get time and a half for any work over 8 hours or work over a 40-hour work week. You get time and a half for the first 8 hours of the 7th consecutive day. You get double time once you go over 12 hours. And you get double time for any work over 8 hours on the 7th consecutive day. So this is incentivizing people to work. I mean, if you can hold out and drive continuously for 12 hours on hour 14, 15, and 16, 13, 14, 15, if you can drive 4 more hours, that's equivalent to driving a whole 8-hour day, just that 4 hours. And so they're going to be highly incentivized to drive this long. And then they're also going to be highly incentivized to work themselves 7 days a week, just constant work. Now, I don't know if you have ever driven for 12, 14, 16 hours, but I have quite often. I'm an entrepreneur. I had businesses when I was in my 20s and 30s, and I would do whatever it took. And sometimes, one time, I drove 20 hours straight from Los Angeles to Portland, Oregon. Another time, I drove to Seattle, from Seattle to Minneapolis, St. Paul, without any sleep at all. Just just drive. And the reason is something made me late, and I had an appointment, a commitment, and I did anything within my power to keep that commitment because it was my business. And so Uber lost $8.5 billion in 2019. They have never made a profit. Yet California seems to want to sort of punish them and make it, this is their largest market, is California. And now they're going to have to either make all of their drivers employees, and to do that, they've got to raise rates drastically, or they've got to pull out of California and drunken driving arrests will go up. But either way, even if the drunken driving arrests don't go up, after you pass that, at 8 hours of just constant driving, you start getting a little bit hypnotized by the scenery going by. And at 12 hours, you start to get dopey. And by like 13, 14, 15 hours, it's just like you're drunk. I did it, but I was in my 20s and 30s. I wouldn't do that today. I would make a different choice. I would call Uber. If the natural tendencies of mankind are so bad that it is not safe to permit people to be free, how is it that the tendencies of these organizers, he's talking about the lawmakers and government here, are always so good? Do not the legislators and their appointed agents also belong to the human race? Or do they believe that they themselves are made of a finer clay than the rest of mankind? The great Frederick Bastiat, read some of his works. He was an economist before the French Revolution, and then got elected to the Legislative Assembly. France had 5 different governments and 3 different constitutions during the French Revolution. But he was part of and his arguments in the legislative body to all of the other politicians that are trying to run everything and make up all these rules and laws and dictates, his arguments were just brilliant. And so I highly recommend going to Mises Institute and looking at that which is seen and that which is not seen. I will just read it. It's a compilation of The Broken Window is just beautiful. The Candlemaker's Petition, I believe, might be one of them. But In the Department of Economy, an act, a habit, an institution, a law, gives birth not only to an effect, but also to a series of effects. Of these effects, the first only is immediate. It manifests itself simultaneously with its cause. It is seen. The others unfold in succession. They are not seen. It is well for us if they are foreseen. Between a good and bad economist, this constitutes the whole difference. The one takes account of the visible effects, the other takes account of both of the effects, which are seen, and also those which it is necessary to foresee. Now this difference is enormous, for it almost always happens that when the immediate consequence is favorable, the ultimate consequences are fatal, and the converse. Hence, it follows that the bad economist pursues a small present good, which will be followed by a great evil to come, while the true economist pursues a great good to come at the risk of a small present evil. And, sometimes you have to make an investment. Sometimes you have to put away something for the future. Sometimes you don't go for the thing that is going to give you the best results right now. So, is it time to get out of Dodge? California they're proposing a tax hike on California millionaires that would create a 54% tax bracket. This is the reason I left California. I loved California, and I would move back in a heartbeat if they didn't punish you so much for living there, for creating wealth there, for creating jobs there. There were 3 years when I was in California where I paid just under 50% tax. And that's because I had an S corporation. There's several types of corporations. A C corporation is if you're going to take a company public. When you do a C corporation, all of the profits stay in the company and you're taxed at them on a much lower rate. But if you take them out of a C corporation, you're taxed again, and it ends up being a much, much higher rate. In an S corporation, the tax consequences flow through to the owners. But if you're going to take any profits out of the company, you get to take out those profits and only pay income tax one time. But there were 3 years where I had to pay probably 10 times my income in taxes. How is that possible? Well, you try to live frugally and leave everything in the business so you can grow the business, and then along comes this big tax bill at the end of the year, and you've lived on a certain amount, but you've got to take this huge amount out of the company to be able to pay the tax bill. So there were a couple of years where I paid almost 10 times the amount of money that it took, the amount of currency that it took for me to survive during that period of time. So in this bill, it's going to change the top marginal tax rate, which is currently 13.3. And that sits again on top of the federal income tax, which is 35% maximum rate. When I was there, this 13.3 sat on top of a 39.6% tax rate. They've lowered that a bit, but they want to change it to 16.8 for millionaires, anybody with incomes of more than $5 million. But wait, there's more. This is the history of California state sales tax. Back in the 30s, a 2.5% rate was considered fair. This is what's fair. Then it was a 3% was fair. No, that wasn't fair. 2.5%. No, 3%. Then 4%, 5%, 6%. This is what I remember for most of my life. The 5% when I was a little kid, 6% when I was a teenager and in my 20s, 7.25%, now it's 7.5%. But then on top of that, there's a bunch of city taxes. And what you see here is mostly the average is about 8.5%. I lived in Los Angeles, so I was paying 9.5. So this is after you have already paid 50%. What's left, you pay another 10% on, which is equivalent now to 20% of your pre-tax income because you lost 50% of it first. in income tax. And then, is it time to get the hell out of Dodge? California isn't stopping there. There was just a proposal last Thursday for California legislators proposed a wealth tax. And this is a 0.4, so it's small, percent tax on your net worth, not on your not on your income. You could have severe losses. You could be filing for bankruptcy protection. You're still taxed on whatever you own worldwide. And so here is the list of some of the stocks in any publicly traded company, any S corp, C corps, S corps, partnerships, private equity, and hedge funds, interest in any non-corporate businesses. So if you're a business owner with any business, and here's the thing, all of this burden has to be calculated by your CPA, and so this is all going on your tax returns now, and it didn't before. So the drag on the economy and on the expense, I spend so much to file a tax return. One year my tax returns were they were more than a half an inch thick. And I've got 3 different CPAs because I am still paying taxes in California. A friend of mine joked that California is like herpes. It never goes away. It keeps on coming back. Cash deposit, bonds, interest-bearing savings account, cash deposits, farm assets, mutual funds, puts and call options, futures contracts. So you've got to report every trading position that you've got if you've got a brokerage account, art and collectibles. So the stuff hanging on your walls in your house has to go into your tax return now. Financial assets held offshore, pension funds, other assets excluding real property. We'll get to the punchline on that in a moment. Debts and other mortgages and liabilities secured by real property. Real property. So they should just say all your assets. Mortgages, it is. It's all of your assets. It's your total net worth. And guess what? It doesn't go away. It's like herpes. California, this new proposal, wealth tax, would continue to tax Californians 10 years after they move out of the state. And the way this works is each year it goes down by 10%. So it's you move out and you pay 100%, and then 90, and then 80, and on the 11th year you're finally out. But Californians now, they have, so run for your life if you live in California. Government believes that all of your income is theirs, and then they magnanimously allow you to keep a small portion. And that portion varies. There's always some politician changing the rules on you. This portion that they allow you to keep is something that goes up and down every single year. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez proposed a billionaire tax for the state of New York, and she's also calling it the Make Billionaires Pay Act. And further down in the article, they say that the tax would generate $5.5 billion. But look at this. The top 1% of earners, who currently account for almost 40% of the state tax revenues, are highly mobile. And so Governor Cuomo is worried. He's against this because he thinks that the wealthy are going to leave the state. And boy, is he right. They will. They're coming to Puerto Rico and other places such as this. There's 118 billionaires that have increased their net worth by 44.9. So let's call that $45 billion during the pandemic. Remember this part, during the pandemic, because politicians have a great way of skewing things and spinning the facts to appeal to the reptilian part of your brain that generates your emotion. And so they're able to control people with this during the pandemic. Now, most of these people, the value of their net worth is determined by their stock portfolio. And the pandemic, the lockdowns started here. So this is their definition of the beginning of the pandemic. And so all of these billionaires, just lost $45 billion, and now they've gained it back again. So they're going to punish them for getting back to where they were back in February. I just think it's amazing. Beware, this is paraphrasing Doug Casey. Beware the day government stops treating you like a milk cow and starts treating you like beef cattle. And these politicians have their forks and knives in hand, and they're coming after you right now. Is it time to get the hell out of Dodge? It certainly is. Huge increase. Americans renouncing citizenship surges to record levels. 5,816 Americans renounced their citizenship in the first half of 2020. Further down in this article, there's this chart that shows, it used to be 400, then 500 a year, and then it peaked at 5,411 back in 2016, and we're at 5,816 in just half the year. People are realizing what is going on, and they're protecting themselves, and they're getting the hell out of Dodge. Since this is an era when many people are concerned about fairness and social justice, what is your fair share of what someone else has worked for? Thank you, Thomas Sowell. He's a professor of economics. He's in his 90s now. But he just has done written many books, brilliant work over the years. I have never understood why it is greed to want to keep some of the currency you have earned, but not greed to want to take somebody else's currency. Thanks again. Logic. Government is the great fiction through which everybody endeavors to live at the expense of everybody else. The great Frederick Bastiat. Read his stuff. Now, some of you would say Bastiat is the proper pronunciation, except he comes from a section in France where it would be pronounced Bastiat, but nobody really knows the proper way to pronounce his name. Brilliant economist, died at the age of 49. Friendly reminder, Robin Hood did not rob from the rich and give to the poor. He robbed from the government, the sheriff of Nottingham, who took all of these taxes, and gave back to the tax victims. And that is true. Up until 1913, Americans kept all of their earnings. Despite this, America still had schools, roads, colleges, vast railroads, subways, and an army and navy. Bye, California. 4 more taxpayers not funding your bad ideas. And this one really hits home for me because when I left California, I moved to Puerto Rico where I have tax exemptions, and 3 of my media team, my news guy, one of my animators, and my producer director came with me. So 4 more, and California lost a lot of jobs when I moved out of state. Let me see if I understand this. If I work, I have to pay taxes to the federal government. But if I don't work, the federal government pays me. A fine is a tax for doing wrong, and a tax is a fine for doing right. If we, as a society, constantly and systematically punish success and reward failure, what do you think we will get more of in the future?
Jacqueline, you take Bulow, and you take the rest of your men, and you get out of Dodge.
So I want to thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.